Hey, this is Mark Wingfield, Executive Director of Baptist News Global. I just want to say a word of thanks here at Year End for your faithful support of our work throughout 2025. What an incredible year it has been for news. And rather than backing off, we have doubled down. We've been able to increase our coverage, increase our podcasts, increase our footprint, tell you more, bring you more, keep you informed, and keep telling the truth because of your financial support for our nonprofit enterprise that is and always has been and always will be reader supported. Thanks so much.
Welcome to another change-making conversation from Baptist News Global. You're listening to a special podcast series titled Highest Power, Church and State, featuring writer, poet, and musician Rick Pidcock. Now here's Rick.
They say the night is darkest before the dawn. Of course, it's mostly just a popular proverb meant to communicate the idea that things often appear to be their worst right before hope steps in. And as we're sitting in the season of Advent, the night is feeling very dark, given the current state of our nation. So for today's episode, I want to share specific evidences of the darkness we're in. The first evidence of darkness is that according to our leaders, we are a Christian nation. Here's Vice President J.D. Vance at Turning Point's AmericaFest.
More than any time I can recount, people are talking about American identity and figuring out what it is that unites us. But I want to say something here. The only thing that is truly served as an anchor of the United States of America is that we have been, and by the grace of God, we always will be a Christian nation.
Notice how long this applause is. It goes on, and on, and on, for 30 seconds.
Now, I want to be explicit because, of course, the fake news media will twist everything that I say. I'm not saying... Do you feel about them the same way I do? I'm not saying you have to be a Christian to be an American. I'm saying something simpler and truer. Christianity is America's creed. The shared moral language from the Revolution to the Civil War and beyond. Across that history, our country's major debates have always centered on how we could best as a people please God. That creed, think about it. That creed motivated our understanding of natural law and rights, our sense of duty to one's neighbor, the conviction that the strong must protect the weak, and the belief in individual conscience. Even our famously American idea of religious liberty is a Christian concept. Because we're all creatures of God, we must respect each individual's pathway to that God. But over the last 50 years, there has been a singular focus, a war that has been waged on Christians and Christianity in the United States of America. And let me say, of all the wars that Donald Trump has ended, that is the one we're proudest of.
We have been and always will be a Christian nation? What does that even mean? Because I could share receipts of us conquering the Native Americans while invoking the name of God and the Canaanite conquest to justify our taking of their land. I could share receipts of us using the Bible and the gospel to justify slavery. I could share receipts of us using the Bible to justify segregation, or bans on interracial dating. I could share receipts of the men today who promote Trump and are connected with our Department of War defending slavery. He said, I'm not saying you have to be a Christian to be an American. And then he says, but Christianity is America's creed. Again, that's not true. Nowhere in the Constitution does it say Christianity is America's creed. And even to the degree that Christianity has shaped the United States, one has to ask how. Because as we've considered throughout this year, there is no such single univocal thing called Christianity. There are Christianities. There are various schools of thought and systems of value that claim to be Christian. And unfortunately, the Christianities that have shaped us have been Christianities of power and punishment, of seeing and taking power in the promotion of sacralized hierarchy and in retributive punishment against all who won't bend the knee. Our nation's debates have been on how we can best please God. Again, no. We're about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. If that means you as an American want to please God, then go ahead. And if that means you as an American want to stay at home or have some other religion or non-religion, then go ahead. I don't have to please J.D. Vance's God. And if you really do respect each individual, then don't say I'm part of a communal conversation bent on pleasing your God. Especially when you define God at the Pentagon Christmas party as a God of hate and war. Here's Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, a team of Christian nationalist worship leaders, and Franklin Graham.
John chapter 1, and the Word was made flesh and dwelt among us. Born in Bethlehem 2,000 years ago, the greatest story ever told. And the best part about it is, it's a true story.
I know every single day you face unthinkable and maybe even seemingly impossible obstacles as you protect the freedoms that we enjoy. And I just want to know that there are so many people lifting you up in prayer and committing to pray for each and every one of you daily.
Isaiah 9:6 reads, "For to us a child is born, to us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulder. And in his name shall be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace."
I'm so grateful to God for each and every one of you, and so grateful for the sacrifices that you make.
For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. God bless you, and a Merry Christmas to each and every one.
It looks like a cozy Christmas time until you read about how Franklin Graham talked about God being a God of hate and war. Until you notice the flags. Until you realize this is at the Pentagon. And then you see the video end with U.S. Department of War, which is currently committing war crimes, according even to some Republican politicians. And in case we're not clear here, listen to these words from Franklin Graham at the Pentagon Christmas worship service.
But did you know that God also hates? Do you know that God also is a God of war? And many people don't want to think about that or forget that.
The second evidence of darkness is that we are a willfully ignorant nation. Again, listen to these words from Vice President J.D. Vance.
In the United States of America, you don't have to apologize for being white anymore.
Nobody has to apologize for being white. Naming the harm we've caused to non-white people in our country over the centuries, and then naming the way it's benefited the powerful, isn't making people apologize for being white. This is willful ignorance about the history and current condition of our nation. We're literally rounding up non-white people based on how they look and are sending them to detention facilities regardless of their legal status or lack of criminal history. And that willful ignorance, the choice to ignore reality, is evidence that we are a violent nation. Here's Senator Lindsey Graham.
I am all for a stabilizing force. I'm all for a border peace. But you can't have a border peace, you can't have a stabilizing force in Gaza until Hamas is disarmed. They're not being disarmed. There's nobody coming over the horizon to disarm them. So I would urge President Trump to meet with Prime Minister Bibi next week and come up with a plan, put Hamas on a time clock. If they don't turn over their weapons and stop rearming at a date certain, I would unleash Israel on them. That's what I would do.
Remember what Lindsey Graham said at the beginning of this war. He said, quote, "We're in a religious war here. I am with Israel. Do whatever the hell you have to do to defend yourself. Level the place," unquote. Somebody else said at the time that Israel should turn Gaza into a sandbox. Well, a Christian nation worshiping a God of hate and war while being willfully ignorant of the harm we've caused and then funding violence has led to unimaginable death. Of course, I'm fine with holding those responsible who did the October 7th attacks, but there have been untold numbers of innocent children who have died violent deaths because we went in with this careless approach of leveling the place and turning it into a sandbox as part of a religious war. And that brings me to my final point today. We are a nation that covers up violence. Here's Republican Thomas Massie on the Trump administration's decision to redact so much of the Epstein files.
Todd Blanche is the face of this, but it's really the Attorney General's office, Pam Bondi, who is responsible. And there are several ways to get at this. Some take longer, some are shorter. The quickest way, and I think most expeditious way to get justice for these victims is to bring inherent contempt against Pam Bondi. And that doesn't require going through the courts. And give her, and basically Ro Khanna and I are talking about and drafting that right now.
The effort of the Trump administration to cover up the sexual abuse of children is matched only by the effort of the Southern Baptist Convention to do the same. And what do you know? All these conservative Christians who cover up sexual abuse in their own ranks voted for the administration who covers it up in theirs. These are very dark times. I could go on to share more, but I think the point has been made. We have a lot of darkness to sit in and process. That's it for today. Thank you so much for listening. Please like, subscribe, and rate us on your favorite podcast platform, and we'll be back with another episode, not on Thursday this week, but on Friday.
This has been another change-making conversation from Baptist News Global. The episode you've just heard is part of a special podcast series titled Highest Power, Church and State. Be sure to follow BNG daily at baptistnews.com and subscribe to get notifications about future episodes. Baptist News Global is a national nonprofit news service that is independent, free, and faithful. BNG is supported by readers and listeners like you. Learn more at baptistnews.com.
This episode was produced and edited by Mac Bowles of TKG Communications, LLC, Dallas, Texas.